All right. Hello, welcome everyone to another video where Adam talks to Oklahoma City performance producers, creators, innovators. Today I have with me Rob Glaubitz. Gla Sorry, I stumble over your last name every time. Can you say it for me again?
Rob Glaubitz.
Glaubitz. All right. Well, thank you, Rob, for your patience. You are with Painted Sky Opera. What is your official title there?
My official title is Artistic Director, and I'm one of the founders of the company.
Great. Brilliant. Yeah, I wanted to talk to you today because I saw Pagliacci over the weekend, and it was my first opera. So I feel slightly more cultured now. It's it was great. I can't wait to talk about it. But
Sure,
to
yeah.
start off, it would be great to just get a little foundation of Painted Sky. What you guys
Sure.
do, how long you've been around town, get
So
everybody introduced.
we've been in Oklahoma City since 2015, and we're now in our sixth season of presenting professional opera in Oklahoma City. And our mission is both to perform opera and also to educate, bring educational programming about opera to central Oklahoma. And we started the company for a couple reasons. First of all, we have this wonderfully diverse artistic community in Oklahoma City. We have an awesome symphony orchestra. We have an awesome ballet. We have a fantastic musical theater company, several music theater companies. We have great other theater. We have, all these different aspects. But what we were really lacking is an operatic company that above the collegiate level. And it's kind of shocking for a city like Oklahoma. I talked to Opera America, which is our kind of governing the organization of opera companies, and they said Oklahoma City, before we started, was the largest city in the United States without a professional opera company. So we really wanted to start it. We believed that Oklahoma City deserved quality professional opera, and that's what we've tried to do.
Yeah, very cool. Since 2015, you traditionally do 2 to 3 productions each year?
We've done for the last few seasons, even in COVID, we've done 4 productions a year.
Wow, where have I been missing that fourth one this whole time? I'm just not informed.
Yeah, sometimes it's a small one. Like this year, our fourth production is a traveling production that's going through metro libraries in July, and it's a 30-minute show called The Enchanted Forest, which is a choose your own adventure opera. So that's our fourth this year.
That's great. Can you tell me more about your educational programming?
Sure, we have in-school educational programming. We take a couple programs into schools, which has been really difficult in COVID. So that's made us think creatively about how we do our educational programming when we're not allowed to actually go into schools. So we've done some online programming. We during the height of the pandemic, we had an initiative. We call it our Opera in Place initiative, and we got 40,000 views of videos and programs that we put up online, some of which were educational, some of which were rebroadcasts of children's opera performances. Some of them, a lot of them was actually original programming. And then after things started opening up, we've been exploring other options that aren't schools, which led to the summer production that I mentioned in metro libraries. We're doing all these performances there. We're doing performances at group homes for boys, groups of students who are unhomed, and indigenous peoples groups like Sisu Youth Services. And I talked to someone today about a group of students who's going to be visiting from the Cherokee Nation that we might do a program for in July. So those are the kind of programming we've been doing recently. But starting in September, we're trying to get back to our in-school programming and really make a strong impact on public schools in Oklahoma City.
Yeah. So is that in-school programming a lot of performances, or is there like you break down what to expect from the opera or how to listen to the music? Is that part of it as well?
Yeah, we have a few different programs that we do. One is our Opera 101, where we go in and talk about the basic aspects of opera, and we let the kids sing and participate in what we do, get them up to sing along with our singers, and it seems to be really fun. And a lot of kids leave from that. There's something very heartwarming when you hear a fifth grade boy out in the hallway singing like an opera singer after one of your programs. It's like, oh yeah, we made an impact on somebody. And we also have a couple other programs. We'll be continuing this opera for children that we're doing this summer. We're going to be also offering that to schools in the fall as a secondary program. And we just had another third program that we're excited about called The Science of Singing, that we presented actually at the the Science Museum Oklahoma last month, and it was really, really successful. And it involves kids learning about how the voice works. It's hard to describe, but it involves large balloons and leaf blowers and just a really fun kind of thing. We basically mimic vocal cords with large balloons and the breath that we use with these leaf blowers, and the kids are actually creating sound with these things in a similar way to the way we produce sound as humans. So really fun kind of scientific program.
Yeah, that sounds super awesome. I want to go to that show.
Yeah, it was a cool program.
Great. All right, very cool. Yeah, I know I've been placing a lot of emphasis on education and how are you teaching people about opera, but as somebody who had this notion that opera was going to be this thing that I was going to slam my face into when I went to see it, it is surprisingly accessible. It doesn't seem to like the music will speak for itself. I don't need a music theory degree to appreciate the performance that's happening. Although my wife, Jenny, is big into music theory and was definitely enjoying breaking down how the music reflected the emotion and the action of the performance. But it's not necessary, and that's great.
I mean, those of us who work in opera understand this and believe this strongly, that it is a very accessible art, but it's got some. I think opera has a bad rap in this country. In Europe, everybody goes to the opera. Kids, adults. It's kind of like going to see a production of Oklahoma or South Pacific or Next to Normal. It's just something you do. You go to the opera and it's fun. Every city has every small town has an opera company, and it's very publicly accepted. But in the United States, we have this view that opera is only for the elite, and that you have to be both rich to attend and to actually sing it. And let me tell you, nothing is farther from the truth that you have to be. Most opera singers are just normal people who love and have become passionate about this art. Opera is actually very inclusive in terms of the arts. If you think about it, it's not we think of it as the singing, but it's also instrumental music. It's also theater. It's also this incredible visual aspect. We had visual artists, not just visual artists, traditional 2D artists, but which we did have, or the projections for Pagliacci. But we also have artists who create three-dimensional costumes. Our costume director, Becky McGuigan, you saw, created these wonderful costumes for the show. And people who build sets. We didn't have really big sets for this, but the sets by themselves, you understand as a theater person, can be this incredible artistic expression. So, and opera puts them all together. And so, really, there's a place in opera for everyone. Even if you don't feel like you're an artistic person, the people behind the scenes making things run, is just really, really critical to the way opera works. So we feel like it's a really inclusive kind of thing, and we want to make it as accessible as possible. like, I don't know if you were expecting to have the super titles that told you what the Italian was. You know, Pagliacci is an opera in Italian, and people say, well, I'm really worried. I don't want to go to a opera where I won't understand all the words, but we project the translations right along with it, and try to present it in a way that even if you couldn't see those projections or we didn't have them, you'd understand what's going on. As you said, the music really tells the story. So
Yeah, yeah, I was expecting, I had been prepared that there would be something for me to read, so I knew what was going on. But I did find myself at multiple points during the performance just not paying attention to it because I realized it wasn't completely necessary. The person I went with described opera as stories of big emotions. So as I was leaning into that, um, the music would tell me what the person was feeling who was singing.
yeah, and especially that's true for 18th and 19th century, and even into early 20th century opera. Um, you know, there actually American modern 21st century opera is one of the most vital areas of new theatrical works today. There are operas being produced all the time. In fact, in a couple weeks, on June 24th, 5th, and 6th, Opera on Tap, which is kind of an organization that to some extent came out of Painted Sky Opera, and that all the people who do that at one time worked for us and were working in our productions. They're presenting a new work called No Justice, No Peace, produced by a local composer named Chris Prather. And so it kind of explores this idea of 21st century opera, modern opera, as being an art form that deals directly with social issues. That one particularly deals with police prejudice and the way that people of color are viewed by law enforcement. And last year, Painted Sky Opera presented As One, which details one transgender woman's journey through transition into adulthood. A couple years ago, we presented Glory Denied, which was all about the experience of our POWs and veterans after they returned from deployment, as told by the true story of the longest held POW in Vietnam War history. And this September, we're presenting Scalia Ginsburg, which you might have heard in the pre-show speech for Pagliacci, is about Antonin Scalia and Ruth Bader Ginsburg and their true life friendship in which they bonded over opera, and the way that two opposite people got together over this this shared love of opera. So it's all this really relevant stuff to our everyday life. So, I mean, the pandemic hit us all across the face, right? But yeah, it's, you know, when we started Painted Sky Opera, I kind of had this realization that as long as we wanted to do it, we could make opera happen. And I think that's really important as we all kind of come out of the pandemic, is as long as we want to keep on doing this, as long as we want to keep on making art and performing, it'll happen. You know, whether we have a large budget or a small budget, the important thing is that we're putting it out there, and people are people's lives are being changed, being affected by the art and the programming that we produce. And so that's kind of kept us all going, I think, through the pandemic, just thinking like, it's hard, but the only thing that matters is that we're doing it, you know, and making the best, most artistic, most relevant result that we can. So that's kind of what we've all been going through and kind of keeping in our mind.
Yeah. Following on the desire to make things, you directed Pagliacci, right?
Yeah.
All right. Can you talk about your desire to direct that show? What got you excited about that piece?
So I think one of the reasons I always wanted to do Pagliacci was partially because it contains one of the most classic opera tropes, that of a sad clown singing, you know, like, and the famous aria, the Ridi Pagliaccio, that we've heard in commercials and kind of has entered into the public consciousness. And and I always wanted to kind of get deep into that story and deep into that music, and bring it to life. And so that's what first kind of led me to the opera, and then it kind of was it was heightened because we have Joel Burcham, who performed the lead role of Canio, who sings that particular aria, is just, he's electric in that particular role. And I was excited to have him in that show to show, again, this is local talent. This is Oklahoma City area talent. We're not bringing in people from New York City. Even the person that we brought, our lead female soprano, she flew in from Germany, but she was an OCU alum. So this connection into Oklahoma City, and that again, this art that a lot of people think is esoteric and elitist is really what's being performed by people living right here. It's local too. It's not just people from New York or Europe or something like that who do it. But yeah, so I really wanted to get into the show. I knew it was kind of this 75-minute roller coaster of emotion and drama. I mean, I think, as you said, opera is big emotions, and this show is definitely exemplifies that big emotions. There's no resting point. It's just goes right, right through to the end. And I was excited for that kind of roller coaster ride as well. So
Yeah, when you're directing that kind of piece, is pacing ever a concern for you when everything is so big from the beginning? Do you worry about asking performers to pull back or hold back a little bit?
So opera is weird. It's different than theater directing, I found. When I direct something that's got a lot of spoken dialogue, pacing becomes a real issue. But in opera, as you mentioned, the music kind of tells the story, and well-written opera paces itself because it tells you what you want to do. So as a director, when I'm directing, I'm always using the music as a guide. What is the music telling me? What is the text telling me? And if the music and text are telling me different things, how do I want to bring this to light? So certainly there have been times when I've asked performers to kind of dial it back a little bit, because we still have a long way to go. With this show and the length and the way the music is just kind of intense and in your face from the very beginning, I didn't really feel the need as much to do that. I just figured let's keep them kind of gripped in this kind of intensity for the whole time.
But really, that is, I think, part of what made this opera so accessible to me was that not only was it just a very basic story and very grounded. A traveling troupe of clowns show up in town and everybody wants to see their performance. And then before that performance can happen, the clown finds out that his wife is sleeping around with somebody else, and he just can't handle it and destroys their performance in front of a live audience. Yeah, it's so very little elitist about anything that was happening.
Yeah, and I really like it. The beginning of this opera has this prologue, and basically it kind of says a basic truth, I think, about opera. And the prologue says, look, like, we're all just people, and we're all just demonstrating normal people things on stage, and I want you to understand that before you see this opera, basically, is that this is normal people singing things that happen to people. And generally, even the most grand of opera, at the very base, is that's what it is. It's real people doing real people things. This particular opera, Pagliacci, was actually based on a real story, for instance, that the composer had heard about in his own hometown in Italy. So, but we have issues. This one happened to be about domestic violence. That was kind of this domestic violence, which of course is still a huge issue today. And a lot of the reactions and the way one character acted towards the other ones is still issues that people are dealing with and trying to solve and understand and come to grips with today. So, and that's all great art is, right? That's why Shakespeare is still relevant, even though we sometimes pretend like he's not, that the stories still make sense. It's still people and the way we react, and it's the good and it's and the bad, and especially for Pagliacci, the ugly actually of human beings and how we sometimes treat and mistreat others, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. The exploration of the human existence and
Mm-hmm.
emotion. It's what
Yeah.
performance is all about.
Yeah.
Um, with your design of the show, coming in, there were all those nice still images of Dust Bowl, Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it sort of set this expectation. But then when the clowns showed up, they were very much not Dust Bowl clowns. Was that an intentional choice in order to pull them away from the reality of the?
Well, a lot of those actual the clown costumes were based on Dust Bowl imagery we found. A lot of
Really?
it was
Cool.
surprising. The clowns that traveled through Dust Bowl circuses were based on the same Commedia dell'arte traditions that the original show of clowns. So Pagliacci is usually more Commedia dell'arte. But so some of those were kind of updated, but you still have the basic clown families of that kind of come down from that Commedia dell'arte tradition. So you still have the kind of the wacky clown, you know. You have the clown with the poofs all over, like you have the very feminine clown, so that's very stylish and kind of, you know, fancy. So yeah, it was actually, you know, we actually found pictures of clowns and based their costumes on that particular
Oh,
aspect. So I
that's
was
great.
surprised actually how much they kind of compared to 19th century clowns.
Yeah,
So
yeah. My apologies. I mean, I saw the giant wig and the huge bustle, and then the
mhm.
other clown with his pointy hat and the poofs, and I immediately just my mind went to Commedia dell'arte.
Yeah.
So I thought that this was a specific choice of trying to separate out the real world from fantasy in order to heighten something in some way. But I am known for overthinking almost everything.
You know, I was surprised too, actually, because I was thinking that it was going to be more like modern day clowning, right? And modern day clowning, we see more of the bozo kind of wig and the floppy shoes and the exaggerated hobo, you know, and all these different things. But clowning at that time was kind of a transitional period, and I think it was kind of starting in that period and the end and towards into the 1940s and 50s, where a lot of those imagery of the Commedia dell'arte kind of went away. So,
Well, I did notice you also had a stylized hobo character in the show. Is that called for? Was that an artistic choice as well?
that was an artistic choice. We had 11 people in our chorus, and actually, that came out of the fact that that particular actor has naturally has long hair and a long beard, and we thought about asking him to cut it off. And then we said, you know what? Let's just make him a character that could incorporate his natural look, so he didn't have to cut his hair, so he looked natural. And so we made him into a kind of a you know, 1930s era kind of vagabond. So
Yeah,
which suited his personal facial hair and choices.
that's great. Pivot, make it work. I love
Yeah,
it.
creative thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you have any closing thoughts that you want to talk about? Do you want to pitch Carmen anymore, or your
sure.
Ginsberg opera?
Yeah, I mean we have Carmen at July 30th, and the production will be semi-staged, but more in concert style than Pagliacci was. Pagliacci was limited scenically, but had full costumes and full staging, and so Carmen will be a more semi-staged concert production. But the music of Carmen is just incredible. Our singers that we have coming in are stellar. I don't think you're going to. I think you'll still get the whole story, the whole communication. So that's going to be an electric show, and when you know we talked about the whole elitist thing, we're planning for Carmen. to have taco trucks there beforehand, invite people to come have dinner at the Hudeberg Center beforehand, hang out. We're going to have a little talk about the opera beforehand, and just really set it up to make a really fun evening of it for that production. And then in September 9th through 11th, we have Scalia Ginsburg at Oklahoma Contemporary, which is a great space for theater. We did a show there last year and loved that space. And then throughout July, The Enchanted Forest, our Choose Your Own Adventure opera, is all the performances are free, and 12 performances at Metro Libraries, and you can find more information about that or anything else by going to our website, paintedskyopera.org, or following us on social media.
Great. Brilliant. Well, thanks for joining me. For everyone watching, this is a video from Theater Crude. We run a Fringe Festival in the fall. This year it's September 15th through the 24th, and we'll be hosted at Jewel Box Theater. I don't know why I felt like this would fit into our mission, but anything I can do to promote people going to see a live performance in Oklahoma City, I'm going to jump at that chance. So that's really why this exists, because I want to and I can't. So thanks, Rob.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
Great.